Welcome back to the Lockhart's Laboratory for this next edition of Grease All End All. Today we're going to take a look at the oil-based version of the Grease All End All line. This is the classic Goon Grease formula that you guys all know and love. It's been around now for, I think, 7 years now. We're closing in on 8 years with this formula. If you haven't tried the original Goon Grease formula yet, maybe now's the time to do it. So this product, it's an old school hair grease, and the theme, old school death metal. So a little bit of history on the product, on Goon Grease itself. The product's been around for over 7 years now. The product came from a desire in the market to get a strong holding hair pomade that also had a lot of shine, where you didn't need to add something like a light hold product or a cream on top of the product that's going to kind of kill the hold. So Goon Grease stepped in and took care of that. So for a little bit of the important information on the product, here are the attributes. Product is going to be a 4 out of 5 for hold. Shine is a 3.5 out of 5. Texture, 2 out of 5. Not a whole lot of texture. It's not a texturizing product. Shine, 4 out of 5. It may even be a little bit more than that, but we're going with a 4 out of 5. This product's going to be for you guys that really want those tall pompadours, with a nice slick side. You can see my sides; they're held down nice and tight. If you want some height in the front, you got that. So, for any of you looking for that old school rockabilly kind of style, Goon Grease is the one for you. So let's bust out the book. Let's take a look at what the actual notes of this fragrance is. The name of this fragrance is the Philosopher. If you get that reference, go ahead and comment below. So the notes for this fragrance are top notes of bergamot, pink pepper, mid notes of tobacco, vetiver, and base notes of smoky oud, antique oak wood, and that good old ISO E Super. So it sparkles nicely, but it's got a nice dark scent to it. Alright, now it's time to take a look at this jar, the artwork based on old school death metal. Let's open it up, have a look inside. I have one hell of a time getting the camera to focus here, so give me a minute, and boom, there it is. So let's look at it. Oh, nice and creamy, but firm at the same time. Love this stuff. All right, breakdown, here it goes. A little buttery, nice little bit of tack to it. And into the hair, we are about to go now. All right, so let's split screen this. I'm going to do it a little bit different than we did last time. That way maybe you can see, I know some of you wanted to see my hairstyling a little bit more clearly. So here we go. So today's album that we're going to be looking at is an absolute classic by the band Death. The album is Leprosy. Now, this album came out in 1988, which is also the year that I was born. Whether that's a coincidence or not, I'm not sure. Probably not. A little bit of history on the band Death. They are a part of the elite group that pioneered that death metal sound, that Florida death metal sound that was coming out of that deep, swampy state. Death, along with bands like Deicide, Obituary, Morbid Angel, and Incubus. Different Incubus, guys, not that Incubus. You got to check that Incubus out. Different world. They all congregated at the Morrisound Studios in Florida and created that key death metal sound that we all know today. With old school death metal, you got kind of two different sounds going on, and it all kind of started around the same time. You have your Swedish death metal sound that came out of the Sunlight Studios over in Stockholm, and you'll have the Morrisound sound coming out of the swamps of Florida. And there's a plethora of all of that in the playlist. If you check your QR code, scan your QR code, and you're going to get all of that for your listening pleasure. So most important member of this band is Chuck Schuldiner. He is the godfather of death metal. He didn't like that label, but it stuck. It's true. The end. That's what it is. And not only did Death pioneer the death metal sound, they also pioneered the progressive death metal sound. Eventually, they would evolve into that. Now, Chuck Schuldiner was a lyrical genius as well as a master of writing crushing riffs on the guitar. He could do it all. And his lyrics were, there was a broad range of the way that he wrote lyrics. They're very poetic. If you get a chance to sit down and read some of them, it just might move you. Now, sadly, in 2001, at only the age of 34, Chuck Schuldiner died of brain cancer, leaving the world without the master of death metal, the godfather of death metal. In the world of death metal would never be the same. All right, so getting on with getting past the sappy stuff, getting past the sad stuff. Let's get on to the actual album. First off, interesting fact about the album: Terry Butler was credited as playing the bass on this album. However, it was actually Chuck Schuldiner that played all of the bass parts. So, fun fact. Now, diving into the album itself, this album has just a crushing, boosted mids, kind of Marshall guitar tone all through it. I believe he used like a JCM 900 or something along those lines. That may not even matter to any of you, but in this album was quite a bit more polished than their first album, Scream Bloody Gore. That one was a little bit more raw, where this one's got a little bit more of those progressive elements that we'll start seeing later on in their career. Progressive elements like abrupt time changes, diminish and augmented tonalities, and there's also very creative, almost jazz-like drum beats all through this album. I don't think there's any blast beats all through the album. There's a lot of thrash beats, but not a lot of blast beats. So this album really shows us where Death came from and where they're about to go. Now today I'm gonna spotlight 3 specific songs on this album, and those 3 songs are gonna be Leprosy, Pull the Plug, and Choke on It. All right, so first up, let's take a look at the song Leprosy. This is the opening track to the album, and it is the title track to the album. It opens up with just a real crushing, pounding kind of just right here, boom. This riff is then followed up with those atonal prog elements like we discussed earlier. So it gives us an idea of what's this album going to be like. And it shows us that we're going to see the old and we're going to see the new. Now, something worth exploring in just about every Death song is the lyrical themes. As I said, Chuck Schuldiner is an absolute lyrical genius. This song is interesting because it is told almost from like a first-person point of view of somebody who is dealing with leprosy. So they deal with becoming a pariah, being ostracized from their group, slowly suffering a miserable and painful death, and just experiencing that. It's a very strong, raw emotion. If you get a chance to read those lyrics, be sure to do so. Now, my favorite part of this song, and the part that kind of gets me, get a little bit of that going in your shoulder, is right around the 2-minute mark. I think it's about the 2-minute mark is when this first comes in. There's this jazzy, kind of bouncy, yet still heavy riff that comes in. It becomes a musical theme throughout the rest of the song. And it's not just jazzy beats. I mean, it's certainly not a jazzy song you heard from the beginning. It's also got really thrashy riffs. It's got really great guitar solos. Overall, excellent song. Go check it out. Next up, we're going to take a look at my favorite song on the album, Leprosy, and that song is Pull the Plug. This is another one of those songs that is really filled with emotions, and it even takes a look at like the ethics of human euthanasia. So some of the themes that Chuck explores in this song is those themes of suffering and grief, grieving for yourself, and what's the right and wrong when it comes to human euthanasia. Just to give you a little bit of an example of the emotions in this song, I'm going to read the chorus to you, and I'm probably going to play a little bit behind me as well. The chorus goes, "Why don't you pull the plug, let me pass away. Pull the plug, I don't want to live this way." So yeah, as I said, that's my favorite song on the album, Pull the Plug. Great song, great banger. You gotta go check it out. You gotta check out this whole album. The link's gonna be below. So last song we're gonna take a look at is Choke on It. This is the final song on the album, and it really does leave us with a preview of what's to come on those future albums, like Symbolic and especially the mighty Sound of Perseverance. Something cool that Death has always done in their songs, and that they especially do really well here, is they have these like background solos. They don't bring their guitar solos to the forefront all the time. Sometimes they allow the crushing riffs to continue being at the forefront while these shredding guitar solos kind of take a backstage and just give some atmosphere to the song. And this one does that really well. Something unique about Death's style is they're not one of those bands like a Cynic or Atheist, where they play fast, awfully fast, fast, progressive, shreddy kind of melodic style death metal. This song, Choke on It especially, it really creeps up on you. It's got like this slow, dreadful kind of sound to it for the first probably 3 minutes or so, and then once it kicks in to a really hard thrash rhythm that goes out through the rest of the song. I think the song's probably almost 6 minutes long, maybe longer. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure you will. So this song really continues to just punch you right in the chest all through the entire song, whether that be at a slow crushing pace or at a fast extreme pace. So, final thoughts on the album Leprosy by the band Death. This album has everything that makes Death great. It has everything that makes old school death metal great. It takes you back to their roots from the Scream Bloody Gore album, and then it also starts giving you little signs of what is to come in their future releases. This album has Chuck Schuldiner at his most genius. This is my favorite Death release of all time. So, that being said, I am going to give this album 5 out of 5 stars. Absolute classic, a must-have for any death metal enthusiast, a must-have for any music enthusiast. There is a lot of history here. There's a lot of elements from the past and a lot of elements that are coming for the future. This album influenced many different acts to follow.
Alright, so now for the moment you've been waiting for, let's have a look at the results. Sorry for the long-winded rant on Death, but they are one of the greatest bands of all time. Hair's nice and shiny, holds great, looks great.
Yeah, guys, so that is my thoughts on the product. I'm not going to do any sort of like review or breakdown because I created it, so it meets my standards. I hope it meets all of yours as well. Goon Grease has been around for a long time, and it's met a lot of people's standards throughout the years. Last thing I want to touch on is what kind of hairstyles are going to benefit the most from this kind of product. Really, Goon Grease has worked well for people with straight hair, curly hair, wavy hair for the past 7 years. Curly hair might be one that's probably the most difficult, but that's obviously, I'm sorry guys with curly hair, it's just a little bit more difficult to tame it. But it does work. So if you got if you pretty much got hair, it's going to work for you. Now, that being said, if you are looking for a product that's going to wash out super easily, this is not the one. This is an old school hair grease. This stuff goes in and it stays in. It works better the more buildup you have. This is 1 day's worth, so tomorrow it's going to look even better when I style with it. So that's kind of key with this product. If you don't like buildup, if you don't like not being able to wash the product out at the end of the day, pick up the water-based version of the Grease All End All line. There's a water-based version and an unorthodox water-based version, depending on your desires. So we've got one for anybody. So go check those out. And of course, if any of you have any questions about these products or any products that are in the Lockhart's Apothecary, go ahead and drop those questions below or shoot us an email. The website will be down here on the bottom of the screen. You can find us there. You can find us on all the social medias. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on the old school death metal, old school hair grease, Grease All End All.